I guess starting at the top, what's the best, one of those nuggets you could give me about just being a dad, man?
I mean, there's no right and wrong. Not just being a dad, but being a parent, right? As much as we are fathers biologically, we're still a parent. And it's the methods that men display and then the methods that women display a lot of the times clash. I think understanding who you are, understanding your flaws, your weaknesses, how do I get better as a person? I think that's the first way to become a better mentor, father, coach, right? Because if I'm scared of the dark, how am I going to push my child to go through the dark, right? So I think your children are your teachers of what you should be doing or becoming stronger at, and a lot of parents run from that challenge, right? They're better at telling someone what to do, opposed to doing it themselves, right? Because children watch they watch you, they don't really listen to you, right? So when you're hypocritical within your own life, they're watching it, and at a young age they have nowhere else to go, so they'll just do those things, or they'll be combative, right? Which I believe that children should be a little more strong-minded and combative, but within structure, right? Because you don't want them doing everything that you tell them to do, because for the simple fact that they came on this world alone, right? As much as mom and dad was there, and if they were blessed enough, or mom or whatever it was, they came in this journey. They're going to leave the journey alone. They came in alone, right? And their mission is different from yours, right? You born in, I'm born in 1974. My first son's born in 2000. The world is totally different. So I have to understand that part. And then before he came, I had to do work. And then when he comes, I have to do more work on myself, right? I think that's the most exciting part of being not just a dad, but a parent, right? Because it's a lot of parents, I want to give my children something I never had. And what they do is they try to parent the inner child in them that didn't have those things, and then neglect the individual that's in front of them.
Yeah. A lot of people are trying to pacify themselves through their children a lot of times. Yeah. You talk about doing some of that work. I know for me, doing my research, you've done some work that most men haven't and wouldn't do. You fought for your boys. You fought for your children in the courts, and you won. Can you kind of talk to me about that, what that journey was like? Because a lot of people don't know, but you had to, literally fight to make sure your boys were okay, and to be so custodian parent, which a lot of men aren't and won't do now.
Well, yeah. So first is it's a lot of men, even women, don't really understand what custodial is, right? Custodial is like basically the head of, right? Making all the decisions, X, Y, and Z. A lot of men relinquish that right, and they become non-custodial, right? They become lazy, right? Not knowing the doctors, not knowing the dentists, not knowing the teachers, not knowing the principals, not knowing not knowing those things, and then being able to build a community around the child so it becomes stronger, right? Because that's what the judge kind of looks at. And I did that, subconsciously, because that's, I think, and a person that pretty smart that I am, I still was stupid enough to understand I didn't, smart enough to understand I didn't know everything. And I was, right? I need these other individuals to help this person on their journey become their best, right? So it doesn't work out for everyone. But I think once you really dial in on not yourself, it wasn't me and being prideful, like I'm going to take my kids. It was basically, I want them to be the best version of themselves. And the only way I can do that is by doing this, right? So I would never want my children to think, I have 3 boys and 1 girl, to think, and my daughter's the youngest, to think that dad gave up or dad's not there or questioning all those things, right? And, the mother has, the mother sees them, the mother has custody as well, right? But I gave that, right? So what's best for them, we really have to take a step back and understand, what does that really mean, right? A lot of parents are selfish with that role, right? A lot of people, they become narcissistic, male or female. It's not gender specific, right? They become vindictive, right? It's a lot of those things. So then the children hurt, right? What's best for a boy? Father,
Yes.
right? Especially if he was a really good man, right? So you look at 2-parent household, single mother household, single father household. Single father household is just as successful as a 2-parent household, right? They don't want to tell you those things. And it's because we have more structure, right? When it comes to like the discipline and the voice and not compromising, right? But I give my kids free will within confinements of, like, the government, right? It's like, yeah, you're free, but you're actually not, right? Kind of thing.
To an extent,
Yeah, exactly. So, and then understanding them, letting them be able to express themselves. Now, you need your mother and your father, and hopefully both of them are sane and reasonable individuals. But me being successful in my own right, coming from 4 parents, graduating college, playing in the pros, being a star, being captain of all my teams, right? Starting businesses, doing all those things. There's a certain structure that you can piggyback off of me. Now, if, any other person, the mother and father are both successful, now we got to figure out, okay, let's bring it in to make them the ultimate child now.
Yeah.
Right. But now, how do we do those things? I didn't want anybody else raising my children when it comes to values. Right. Now, I don't mind any other individual helping me raise them, right, to be the best version of themselves, right? Because my job is, as a father, is to raise them enough so they don't need me. A lot of mothers raise them so they will always need them, right?
Wow.
And it's a very tough thing, and sometimes it's subconsciously. They don't know they're doing it, right? And maybe they do. I don't know. I've never been a female, so I don't know their true intentions. My intentions is you'll always have a home, but I want you to be able to take care of your own home when that is possible, right? And how do you do that? Okay, there's certain responsibilities, there's certain accountability, there's certain things that's going to happen throughout your childhood that you might not like, that what we're doing, getting up at 6 to go work out, having to study, tutoring, working out, dishes, washing your clothes, cleaning up. Those things you have to do regardless. You start getting older. You got to go to work. You have to do those things. And when do you start doing those things? As early as possible, right? Because then it becomes easier to manage life.
Okay. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about my own life, like with my daughter. She's in 1st grade. And so told her, on every Friday, I need you to get your clothes out your room, put them in the dirty clothes hamper so we can start washing your clothes. So now I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track, just trying to get her prepared for just doing responsibilities, taking on roles in the house, for sure.
Yes, sure.
I also wanted to ask you, when it comes to your boys, I just saw a video. One of your sons is doing really well playing ball. What is that like being, I guess, dad and, I guess, mentor? How do you balance that?
I give him space, right? He's growing. His emotions are everywhere in different ways. They don't want to hear your voice all the time, especially when you're criticizing, right? So when we go work out, it's very pleasant. It's not no screaming, do this. It's not none of those things. It's actually therapy. How did I come up with that? How would I want to be treated? Right? Because I'm already hard on myself. I don't need another person that I look up to or I love to be hard on me also. That's 2 people now. So just in the sport of basketball, I understand how you would feel if you miss a shot, turn it over, have 30. I know all the spectrums that the emotions that will happen. So now I got to say, okay, if he wants to go with his friends and do this, or he don't feel like talking after a loss, or this, that, whatever happens, I got to understand that he's human also, right? And he's a Mobley. So he has a lot more pressure put on him that he has to perform. So to combat that, life has to be less chaotic in this household and just being a kid, right? But where do you start at, right? We start in the gym where it's not as chaotic. It's very therapeutic. It's getting shots up. It's, kind of just talking him through things. What did you feel? Do you see yourself open right here? This, that, whatever. And then when the game comes, the game is as fast as those kids are going, he's slow. His brain is fast, but he's slowing down movement-wise, which makes it look sharper.
Yeah. Starting to get that second sense, that next gear, because he's had so much repetition.
Yeah, because when you play basketball, kind of like life, right? Basketball comes with rules. Life comes with rules. Red light, green light, yellow light, stop sign, right? Laws. Well, it's actually codes, not really too much laws.
Traffic laws, but I get what you're saying.
Right, whatever it is, right? You follow those. When you follow those, life is actually could be easier. But if you fight those, the game of life gets harder. So how do I prepare myself, right? If I'm driving in the car and it's almost empty tank, I got to fill it up, because the next morning, before I go in the house, because the next morning something may happen. Lights may go out. This may happen. It may happen. I didn't fill up. I got to take you to school. Now I'm irritated, right? I got to stop to get some gas. Kids are late. I'm pissed off. They feel that energy. You understand? You see how that works? So you just got to maybe follow the beat stress before it beats you. Get to the point first. Be proactive. Understand that your car is going to get empty. Understand that you may turn it over. Understand that you may miss your shot. Understand that those things may happen. You may get your heart. Understand that if you don't study, you're going to get an F. Understand that this will happen if this happens, right? If I keep shooting, I'm going to have some bad shooting nights. But if I keep shooting a lot, I'll have better days and games where I shoot well than not.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can prepare myself for the struggle of life, because life is a struggle, a beautiful one, life becomes easier. It becomes controlled chaos now, because it's all chaotic. Wherever you live at, I live at. Traffic is traffic. You're sitting in traffic, I'm sitting in traffic, right? If you go out a certain time, it's very simple. We make it harder than what it is, right? Because we don't know how to manage the emotion, right? So a lot of people are like the first-time boxer that got punched in the face. Very surprising. But they live their life through that. It's always a first-time punch, opposed to understanding that when I get in the ring, I will get punched in the face, get in the ribs, in the head. It will happen.
It's a guarantee.
But how do I bounce back from that? Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned something. You mentioned like managing emotions. So I know that's something that a lot of the students that I deal with struggle with. I end up dealing with students with the behavioral issues, the outbursts, right? And one of the things I try to convey to, especially our male students, is managing their emotions. Can you go further in that idea or with that concept of, even from a parental standpoint or just in any way you see it, how do we get our young men more acclimated with managing their emotions?
Yeah, so it's really hard to manage your emotions as a child. See, there's three things, right? There's fight, flight, and then there's freeze. When you're a little kid, you can't flight, you can't go nowhere because that's your home, right? And then you learn how to bottle it up, and when you bottle it up, after a while, you become fighting, right? But when you're really little, you're freezing because you're just trying to figure out the rest of life and how do my mom handle her emotions, and my aunt and my grandmom and my dad and my uncle and you're watching how other people handle the emotion. It's like a child who falls and then he looks at the parent and the parent's like, "Oh, you good, come on." And then pay no attention. You're starting to learn how to control the emotion. Oh, it wasn't that bad. But if the parent goes, "Oh, you okay?" The kid goes, "Oh, it's time to cry. Okay, I got it." Right. So a lot of it comes from your environment that you grew up around, right?
Okay.
Or you wasn't being heard, right, at a young age, suppressing it, especially little black boys, little brown boys,
Yeah.
right? Or the little girls, the girls, they didn't have the father around, or the father wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to hug, kiss, talk, look them in the eyes, take them out, make them feel special, kind of at a very young age. So now they seek for that validation as they get older, right? Whether it's tight clothes, makeup, this, that, all those different things. And I'm not saying that the father gives it to them that it's 100% chance that the girl won't do that. I'm just saying that it's a better chance, right? You can still gonna get in an accident if you have a seatbelt on. But if I get in an accident, hopefully I'm safer with the seatbelt.
Yeah. Taking those precautions and putting them in place.
Yes.
One of the other things, so I connected with you, of course, through Instagram, and it was a video I posted, and it went viral on my page, had over 1 million views, and you saw it as well, with the cowboy. And the guy asked him, what is it like being a man, if you could explain it? He had this giant sigh, and he said, there's 10 million things going through our heads that our women and our wives will never know. And sometimes it's easier to keep it in than it is to try to explain it to them. What was your take on that video when you watched it?
Well, he explained it perfectly. I don't remember exactly verbatim what he spoke about, but because we grew up in a world where saying your feelings was frowned upon as a man, as a boy. You go through life more so domesticated inside your own true self. And people don't understand that we go through so much, but you gotta, as a role, right? You have to do this, and this, and you're not human anymore. You don't have the emotions anymore. Now, I don't remember exactly what he was speaking of. I just love that how he, at that time, I can't remember it, how he articulated it. But being a man is it's like being a woman, right? It's a very hard thing, especially when you come from parents that weren't emotionally there, right? Because we all come from some type of trauma. You can live in a house where you have both parents and there's 5 kids, and one of the kids be like, you know what? I didn't get attention. Like my parents did this, right? Or you can live in a house where there was just dad or just mom, and it's like, I had the best life. It was all good. Like, so there is no perfect scenario, right? But it is rough, right? Because I've never been a female. I've only been a man. So it is rough.
I'm with you.
Right. It is rough going through the emotions, suppressing them, and still being able to wake up and say, I'll get it done. I got it for you. Right. Like that's you get exhausted. Right. But we don't have those people, and it's getting better now, but we don't have those people where you can call your girlfriends and it's a whole bunch of girls sitting around drinking wine and you can spill it all out. Like, we don't have that, right? Which we should have more of that, because it now makes us better as men and stronger as men, because now we understand, because we're very tribal as a society. So the more help we can get, whether it's just venting, or help we can get, whether it's, can you pick this up and do this for me, this, that, whatever, we become healthier emotionally.
Yeah. Having that safe space makes us healthier for sure.
Right.
I want to kind of pivot real quick. You were in the league, in my estimation, in the greatest era that there was.
I think so.
You got to play with some of the greats and play against some of the greats. So I'm going to ask this question. Do you have any Kobe Bryant stories for me? Because I know y'all had some battles when you were in Houston. And just along your path, any memories, any stories you got of the late, great Kobe Bryant?
Not really too many stories. I mean, we grew up together, but not really too many stories where I remember when we were younger, we used to work out at it's called Winfield. It's closer to his house in Lower Merion when we were younger, and I'm from North Philadelphia, which is like on the other side. But St. Joe's University would let guys come and work out and all that stuff. And then Kolb, after a while, wouldn't work out with all the other guys. He would go into the other gym by himself and then tape up the mirror, the window, so you couldn't even see him work out, and lock the door. Right. So he was on his assassin mode from the very beginning. And we would talk when I was in the league, and then it got to a point where I knew we were about to play him because he wouldn't call or talk to me during that period of time. But other than that, I didn't really have too many stories where it's, he was very serious, but yet very helpful at the same time. Coming from the same city and playing the same sport, and both Virgos, and thinking alike and those different things. But I didn't really have those type of stories where a lot of his teammates may have had because they spent more time with him.
Yeah, just paralleling you guys because you are both from that same area of Philly. Figured you might have something, and I appreciate that as a fan just of the game. Like I said, I'm born in '84, so I grew up watching.
You were LeBron James.
Yes, yeah, but I grew up watching you guys. So, man, you and Steve Francis and the Yao Mings and the battles with Yao and Shaq. So that's what I grew up watching for sure.
Right.
Something a little kind of off topic. I don't know if you've seen it, but Anthony Edwards has been in the news lately because he had this scenario with a young lady he was intimate with, and he decided to pay the child support for the child because he wanted nothing to do with the child, and paid 18 years of child support up front. What was your thoughts about that? Or had you seen that yet?
I actually didn't. I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards was involved with a young lady, and she got pregnant. He supposedly gave her $100,000 to have an abortion. She kept the money, had the child anyway, and then told him, "Hey, this is your child." He said, "I don't want anything to do with the child or with you," and settled and paid 18 years worth of child support recently up front. As a dad, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it's very tricky, right? When you're young like that, Anthony Edwards, I don't know the girl. Coming from being a basketball player, these girls know exactly who you are. They know how much you're going to make. They know all those things. So if I can not do nothing for 18 years, I'll find the best way to not do nothing for 18 years. To be fair, he is at fault because it's not just that girl. It's like a few different girls he had babies by, right? But it is it's age appropriate for him to do silly mistakes like that,
for
right?
Sure.
Just like it is for her, right? Not being mature or whatever it is, and I don't know if she's in her 20s. I have no clue, right?
Yeah.
But also too is, she's not innocent, right? You came in with the motive. Your intentions were this. You conquered your intentions. You understood what you were doing. You took the money, to $100,000, to do X, Y, and Z. You didn't do that. So no. I don't think you should be able to say, okay, I'm going to take the 100 plus I'm going to have the child, and you're going to. That to me is very evil. It's just not, because that you can tell why you came into this whole situation from the gate, right? Because I'm not advocating for abortion, but my point is, why take that money and then say I'm not doing it and then go after him for 18 years of, right? That's, to me, is like, who's your father? Who's your mother? How were you born? How were you raised?
How were you raised?
Yeah, it's just not a good thing. And I don't wish anything bad on anybody, but no good will come from that for her until she becomes more mature emotionally as a being, right? Because when you do things like that, not just her, but the baby will suffer certain things in life that because you weren't genuine with yourself and more authentic, as much as people think they can get away with something, you just don't get away with it. Something bad will happen in your life.
It's gonna come around somewhere.
That's
for
just
sure.
that's just my opinion.
No, I understand. That karma, you got what you got coming, all those type of things. I completely.
It's just ugly. It's evil for her to take the money and then not do a certain thing and then go after for 18, right? Like it's just don't take the money. Don't take the money and do that.
Yeah.
And my son's 15, and I have another son who's a designer, clothing designer. Girls are going to come after them, right? All three of my boys are good looking, right? My daughter, she's 11. She's a beautiful little thing. So it's going to be evil people. And hopefully they can come to me and let's assess this the right way before you get to that point where y'all start pillow talking and y'all in bed and y'all doing all these other crazy things, because now something can happen where you're bringing this individual into the world and you're not emotionally ready for that, which a lot of parents, a lot of people who have children are. They're not emotionally ready. So that's why you see all this chaos and craziness, because you have more unstable individuals and traumatic and childhood trauma people than not.
For sure. One last question, or I'll try to make it the last. You mentioned you have 3 boys and a daughter. So what is that transition like, going from having your boys and your daughter being your last and now being a girl dad?
It's so crazy, man, because she got in this house, she got 2 rooms, and she got her own 2 rooms, and she got her own my room, and she's just a girl. She's more expensive than them. She's probably 3 times more expensive than them, right? She's more emotionally set. She's always checking on all of us, right? She's super sweet and loving, right? Of course, she's a female, so there's all estrogen in here, and just one. There's all testosterone in here, and just one estrogen, right? So she, she has her days, but it is a balance, and she taught me actually how to understand the female species better, right? I think that's a big thing, right? Because I only had boys,
right?
And then she came along, and then the love that she gives and the unconditional love, it's for me to mess up, right? I've learned a lot from her, and I thank her for that every single day, even though times get hard of learning while she grows from 11 to 12, 12 to 13, 13 to 14. She's going to evolve into a woman. So my job is to be more supportive as I can, and make sure the environment the environment she's in when around me, right, that it's a safe environment for her, because the world is not just for her, but for the boys, for your kids. It'll get ugly, right? So you have to have thick skin and know thyself a little better.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this so much. I'm going to ask you one more thing. We'll wrap up.
Yes.
Do you have any colleagues, any peers that you think would want to talk to me as well about their journey in fatherhood that we could possibly connect with?
Yeah. I have my guy, Corey McGetty. That's a few guys Corey, I think he has 5 children, 6. And his wife she's amazing. They're Christian. I'm not Christian, but they're Christian. They're very heavy on the Christian faith. She's Puerto Rican. She played ball, so you have 2 individuals that are athletes, right? So they kind of speak that same language of hard work, right? And I for your listeners and everybody else, like, especially an athlete, like, deal with athletes, marry an athlete. It's easier. Seriously, it's easier, because when you have those children, now those late nights or the studying and the student athlete, it makes more sense. You're speaking the same language.
I was going to say that same thing, is finding somebody that speaks the same language as you. So it's the same way lawyers end up with lawyers, or athletes end up with athletes, or it's that same dynamic. You have the familiarity of the same realm.
Exactly.